Don't forget to like and subscribe. Back with another one. I'm about to talk to you about Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones. Why? Because you all know about the little banter that Jon Jones and Tyson Fury had going on, saying that he's the baddest man alive, he can take him, but the reality is he's the baddest man alive when it comes to boxing. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes to mixed martial arts, Jon Jones is the king. You cannot deny him of this. However, there is one mixed martial artist out there that is endorsed by Tyson Fury in which he believes that Jon Jones can be beaten by. And that's none other than Tom Aspinall. By the way, the sparring partner of for Tyson Fury for the Francis Ngannou fight. And on top of that, the guy's a black belt at jiu-jitsu, underrated in his boxing, probably should be a lot highly rated in his boxing considering that he goes out and spars with the likes of Tyson Fury. And you could imagine what that does for you in terms of heavyweight MMA in the UFC's division. And now Jon Jones is the king of that mountain. A guy who has beaten the legends of all legends when it comes to the sport and the names that he's captured along the way. Lyoto Machida. We're talking about Shogun Rua opening with a flying knee in his championship fight with a couple of weeks' notice that he got to be able to fight in that particular matchup. And then on top of that, you got, who else? Glover Teixeira, Thiago Santos. The list goes on. Jon Jones has such an insane resume that it is no wonder why a lot of people defend him when it comes to who is the greatest of all time. Now, what do I mean by people defending him? Obviously, we're talking about Khabib, right? Because everyone always says, well, Khabib is better than Jon Jones. Jon Jones is better than Khabib. What is the haps on that particular story? Who is what and who is who? Is it better that he's undefeated? Is it better that he had more title defenses than the other guy? Is it better that he had bigger names and bigger pay-per-view draws in terms of the marquee matchups that he had with the likes of Conor McGregor? To which, fair enough, Jon Jones never really had an opponent like that. Sure, he's had tough opponents along the way that gave him some serious challenges, but none of them ever gave him this big marquee matchup where there was beef going on, there was conflict, there was all these politicians around the world that are interested in it, in the likes of Vladimir Putin, in the way that he participated or threw his opinion into the ring of UFC 229 with Conor McGregor and Khabib. No, he never had any of that. But his resume, when it comes to being the greatest of all time, you can't deny him of that. But as time goes on, let's say he goes into the UFC 295 card and he loses against Stipe Miocic. Well, now one can argue that he may have stayed too long. The fact is, Jon Jones is a favorite in that particular matchup. So what does that mean? That means that they're expecting him to win because of these accolades that he has going on, but maybe they don't take into consideration the type of bad matchup that he could potentially be for the likes of Stipe Miocic. So he gets past that. Let's say in a hypothetical setting, right? Jon Jones gets past that matchup. What's next? Obviously, it's going to be Tom Aspinall. Okay, suppose Tyson Fury is wrong about endorsing Tom Aspinall, and guess what? This is what training partners do, man. They go out there and they endorse their guys. Otherwise, why would you train with them? Why would they want to train with you if you're not out there endorsing them? Why would I want to train with somebody that I don't believe in? And why would I go out there and have somebody fight somebody without being prepared or knowing that they could win? That's just the reality of it, right? So there's going to be inherent biasness that's going on in that particular statement with Tyson Fury bigging up his boy, saying that he's the best heavyweight of all time in whatever capacity that he wants to convey that message. But if Jon Jones fails, guess what? Khabib automatically just becomes the greatest of all time. Based on the fact that Khabib knew when to get out, yes, a lot of it was based on the fact that he had this conversation that he had with his mom about him getting out of the fight game because of his dad and the tragedy that happened during COVID. So all of these things are a factor. The bottom line is, Jon Jones may not fight Tom Aspinall, but if he does, he is moving into a different trajectory of a different generation. Remember those names that I just mentioned: Lyoto Machida, Shogun Rua, Rampage Jackson, Alexander Gustafsson, Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes, Cyril Gane in the recent times. All these names, guess what? None of them will almost not matter if he loses to either Stipe Miocic or Tom Aspinall, because he stayed a little too long. This is one of those things that you have to understand about mixed martial arts and a business in and of itself. And obviously you see that with boxing in the way that they praise Joe Calzaghe, Floyd Mayweather, and Rocky Marciano in their undefeated streak and how they ended their career. Nonetheless, you got to understand this about Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. Jon Jones has struggled with a lot of guys that are great movers. Yes or no? Write on the comment section if you truly believe that he's going to struggle with great movers moving down the road, because that's what we said about Cyril Gane, but what happened? He got neutralized with the wrestling. Now, what about Tom Aspinall? He's a black belt at jiu-jitsu. Take him down. Okay, see what happens. He does have great takedown defense, and we wanted to see how that was going to play out in the Curtis Blaydes fight, but obviously that fight ended the way that it did within just 50 seconds, and never really getting to see much of what Tom can do against a proficient wrestler in the likes of Curtis Blaydes. So now you take him down. You're Jon Jones. You take down Tom Aspinall. Now you got problems on the ground. You can get hit with a Kimura. You can get hit with a triangle choke. You could get submitted with a guillotine. You could get submitted with an omoplata. Anything that Tom Aspinall wants to do down on the ground, he can. Now, to be fair, you look at Jon Jones, he trains with some of the best grapplers in the world. You've seen him, he's trained with the likes of Gordon Bryan, and you got to think that does wonders for his game. He's got all these top heavyweights that he trains at. Well, I wouldn't say they're top heavyweights, but they are good enough heavyweights to give him a feel of trying to understand what the type of guys they have out there. The problem is, where are you going to find a guy like Tom Aspinall, who has great jiu-jitsu, who has great boxing? Maybe Frank Mir, and you all know that Frank Mir constantly is being compared to with the likes of Tom Aspinall. They have the same hair, they look the same, they fight the same, they're almost the same height, the same size, so on and so forth. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be really exciting to see how Tom Aspinall does fare with Jon Jones if they actually do it. But for now, this is just Tyson Fury bigging up his training partner, as you should. As you should be bigging up your teammates, your training partners, and all the people that are involved in your career. And all the other fighters that you help. You should absolutely be bigging them up. There's no doubt about that. But the problem is, can he actually do it? And that's not even the biggest question of this whole entire thing. Will Jon Jones even go out there and fight him to begin with? Because the way that it's looking like right now, probably the answer is no. Why do I say that? You look at all the ticket prices that are going on for UFC 295 right now. What do you have going on? What you have going on is tickets that are up to the 5 to 6 figures worth of ticket sales, right? Of prices, for the ticket sales. So, what gives? Is it just because they know that this is going to be a historical matchup? Imagine that being the last match for Jon Jones. But then again, you always know that this is never over. This is never the end for some people. For some people it is. It's definitely the end for Khabib, because even a few years later, there was no hint or talk of any of his return by any stretch of anyone's imagination. So now, What do you got to say about Tom Aspinall? Is he eventually going to become the heavyweight champion? Yes. As long as Jon Jones leaves at a certain amount of time, or if Jon Jones is just way past his prime and he catches him at the right moment of his career, and being that Tom Aspinall is going to be in the prime of his career while Jon Jones is on the decline. That is a possibility. But yes, he can also be heavyweight champion when Jon Jones goes out and vacates it after a win against Stipe, or if Stipe goes out and vacates it after his win, because you got to look at these two big heavyweights with Stipe and Jon Jones. They've done it all. Jon Jones has beaten the biggest names in the light heavyweight division, which is unarguably the biggest glamour division during his time era of the 2000s, 2010s, and so on. Maybe not so much now, but you look at the 205 division right now, it's a vacant title because of Jamal Hill's injury. And how did Jamal Hill win that? Well, he won it because another guy got injured, had to pull out of that title fight. And then before that, it was two guys that went to a draw with the likes of Ankalaev and Jan Blachowicz. But nonetheless, that is the reality of what you have going on with Tom Aspinall and his potential against Jon Jones. But also, I think that he is a great training partner for the likes of Tyson Fury, getting ready for this Tyson Fury Francis Ngannou clash. Why is he a perfect sparring partner? Because let's face it, MMA and boxing have two different types of rhythms. It's a certain type of rhythm where you have to set up kicks, so therefore the habits that you do, even if you're just punching in a boxing match, is going to show, and it's going to kick in terms of the type of habits and the types of things that you have in your technical arsenal. So Tom Aspinall is the perfect guy to emulate that. And then on top of that, not to mention that Tom Aspinall can also be a potential matchup for none other than Francis Ngannou. So once again, like and subscribe and enjoy the greatest combat sports era in history, whether it's MMA or boxing or every other combat discipline there is. This is the greatest time ever to be a combat sports observer and to be a combat sports athlete, but also to be a combat sports media member or MMA YouTuber or whatever capacity you want to be a part of. Of course, you can always argue maybe the money isn't there the way that it used to be, but the one thing that you can't argue right now is that these matchups are as hot as they've ever been in ways that they've never been before. Enjoy them, because you have every right to enjoy these fights.